Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees are still alive. They defeat the Boston Red Sox by a score of 4-3 in Game 2 of the American League Wild Card Series. And this series has really lived up to the hype. I mean, Red Sox Yankees, I got to think even for just a baseball fan that isn't a fan of either of these two teams, that it's provided a lot. And look, the Yankees in this game, there were many points in time where it's like they could have gotten away from them. And somehow, some way they figure it out. And that's what it is at this point. Elimination game. And, it would have been, look, losing this series in any capacity is not good, but certainly the Yankees, I know it's only 2 games, but the Yankees had not been swept all year at home. Look, that would have gone down as a sweep. Granted of the 2-game variety, but it doesn't go down like that. And really the play of the game ends up being the bottom of the 8th where Jazz Chisholm Jr. gets a 2-out walk against Garrett Whitlock. Really nice at bat for Jazz, who was upset the night before. And look, on the one hand, I can appreciate him being disappointed. Of course he wants to play, but again, I didn't totally hate the decision to not start him. I actually had more of a problem with the idea of him being brought into the game for Rosario, which, I made a big deal about that. And then it actually had a lot more discussion, which was nice to see. Boone even admitted that, if there was one regret from game 1, it was the fact that he did take out Rosario for Chisholm when the Yankees were losing. But Jazz draws a walk, and Austin Wells after him has another really nice at bat, and Wells, full count, Jazz is running, hits one down the right field line, and it's not only is it fair, but it doesn't go into the stands for a ground rule double. Sort of the perfect scenario with Jazz's speed, and Jazz is able to have a pretty epic moment, and he scores from first. Again, it helps that it was a full count, so he's running on the pitch, and he slides in safe, and that was your game. That was the winning play in the bottom of the 8th. So much, and there was so much around it. I mean, the top of the 9th, Bednar, who struck out the first 2 batters, he gave everyone a scare. Certainly all Yankee fans when Ceddanne Rafaela hits an 0-2 pitch to the track and right. And when he first hit that, I thought it was out. I really, really did. And it was a bad 0-2 pitch, but, able to lock it down. So as far as the starters in this game for game 2, Carlos Rodón, not great. Not great. And it wasn't anywhere near amazing. It was not horrendous. It was, I guess, somewhat down the middle. I mean, the Yankees won the game, so you kind of end up feeling more okay about it. But the reality of it was, it's 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, a hit by pitch as well, a solo home run allowed. Look, he kept him in the game. But it was nowhere near the outing that we saw from Max Fried. And look, for Fried, there was a little bit more pressure going against Crochet. Sometimes as pitchers, you kind of, whether it's, subconscious or not, you tend to sort of match what the other pitcher is doing and keeping your team in the game. But, disappointing outing, I'd say, for the most part from Rodón. But in some ways, it's no harm, no foul, given the fact they won the game. For the Red Sox, Brian Bayo really did not look very good early, and Alex Cora with a very quick hook. So Bayo, 2 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and no strikeouts. And look, the risk of what Cora did is the ramifications that come in game 3. However, I thought it was a pretty good move by Cora to do it. And it kept the Yankees at bay for a while. It really, really did. The Red Sox bullpen did a very nice job, really up until Whitlock in that 8th inning. They really did. Held the Yankees down. I mean, the one run that was allowed by Justin Slayton really was a ball that absolutely should have been caught. It goes down as a hit, but it should have been caught by Jaron Duran. So, if you're a Red Sox fan, look, there was a risk to it for sure, but I think if Bayo's left in there, I think the Yankees might have scored more runs. So, but it's not what we necessarily anticipated going in, especially from a Yankee perspective, knowing how good Bayo is against the Yankees. But Brian Bayo has struggled lately in general. And so the Red Sox, including Bayo, end up using 7 pitchers in 8 innings. Um, so, and I guess I'll bring this up now, it's sort of thinking about game 3 in this sense is, while that hurts the Red Sox and Garrett Whitlock especially, Garrett Whitlock threw 47 pitches. So I think he'll still be available for game 3, but not a whole lot. Like, I think given the fact that Whitlock didn't pitch the first game, I think that he could probably at least go in a situation to end an inning or for a 3-batter minimum situation. But like, he is the one that you look at and say, hey, like he could be affected. But besides that, I mean, really, not even besides that, no Red Sox pitcher pitched both games. On the Yankees, it's a little bit different situation where you have Cruz, Devin Williams, and Bednar, who all, pitched games 1 and 2. Now I want to see the pitch counts here. 14 pitches for Cruz, 19 for Williams, 16 for Bednar. So nothing egregious at all. Let me see what it looked like in game 2 as far as the pitch count for those guys goes. Cruz 14, Williams 11, Bednar 15. So nothing crazy. But the thing is, you go back to Sunday. You go back to Sunday against the Orioles. And by the end of that game, you kind of knew it. Again, this is why we talked about, should Bednar pitch that ninth? Probably not. And in that game, it was Cruz 22, Williams 14, Bednar 19. So that's 4 out of 5 days for those guys. And this is not a matter of me saying that it's a matter of effectiveness. They'll be available. They will. It's all hands on deck. And then, I mean, if you even go back to Friday, in the case of Cruz and Bednar, Cruz threw 12, Bednar 22. So specifically, Cruz and Bednar have really pitched a lot. And so look, like the fact of the matter is that, you're going to see, certainly Weaver. I mean, Weaver in some ways was slightly demoted for Cruz. Like that, this was a spot where if Weaver gets the job done in game 1, he would have pitched the Cruz lane that we saw here in game 2. But it's just going to be very interesting. That's all I have to say for what we see in game 3. But let's circle back to game 2. And, it's one of those things where getting off to that big start is really important, even though the Red Sox did tie it up. And Ben Rice, in his first plate appearance as a Yankee, not as a Yankee, as a major leaguer, hits a home run. And that he's the 6th Yankee to do so. The most recent one being Shane Spencer in 1998. First plate appearance. And he'd been really good heading in. So that was exciting. After Rodón gives you a good top half of the first. And by the way, the lineup was what you'd expect, right? This is the traditional Yankee lineup versus righties. Grisham, Judge, Bellinger, Rice, Stanton, Chisholm Jr., Wells, Volpe, and McMahon, right? That is the basic iteration of what we've seen on most nights, for the last month or so. Maybe even more than that. But it's a 2-out single for Bellinger. And I want to just say on Bellinger right here, because I don't know. Well, actually, it will come up again. So I'll wait. I'll wait on this. 2-out single Bellinger, and then Ben Rice, 2-run shot. Just amazing stuff off of Bayo. Makes it 2-0 Yankees. Then let's go to the third. Rodón with a good first 2 innings, but the third inning, not so much. Jarren Duran single, lefty-lefty. Cedane Rafaela, who never walks. He walks here, just as he walked the game before against Weaver. And then Nick Sogard reaches on a sac bunt via a throwing error by Carlos Rodón. So, not a great play by Rodón. He bounces it. Chisholm tries to keep the foot in the bed, can't do so. And that's an out that needs to be made. Again, it wasn't like completely the worst thing I've ever seen, but hey, it goes down as an error, and correctly so. Bases loaded, no outs, and Rodón strikes out Rob Refsnyder, but Trevor Story, who had quite the night, rips a 2-run single to tie it up at 2. That's a big hit for Boston. Big hit against Rodón. But then Alex Bregman grounds into a play on a great play by Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Volpe. Really nice play to turn that. Not easy, and a good connection between those two. And the inning ends with the score tied at 2. Now let's go to the third. Leadoff single for Ryan McMahon. Grisham grounds into a force out. McMahon out at second. Judge single, and then Brian Bayo's night is done. So with the lefties, Bellinger and Rice coming up, they go with Justin Wilson. And with Justin Wilson, the former Yankee, pitching, and Bellinger up, it's a double steal. Trent Grisham goes to third with a stolen base, and then Judge, because Carlos Narvaez was unable to catch the ball, Judge then scampers over to second. So it doesn't go down as a steal for Judge, but he ends up on second. Second and third, one out for Cody Bellinger, which during the regular season, for the most part, you love that opportunity. But Cody Bellinger is one of two players that I want to see more from, like in terms of what my expectations are. Cody, and I'll bring up the other player now as well, because I don't think that there was another situation that was as critical. So I'll say it both now. Bellinger flies out to left, and he's swinging a lot of pitches out of the zone, and some he's missing on, and some he's fouling, and some he's putting in play. And again, Bellinger did get that hit in the first inning. Credit there. And Cody Bellinger is honestly one of my favorite players on this team. He is. That's the disappointing thing. Cody Bellinger and Giancarlo Stanton, if you asked me going into this postseason, honestly, based on like Judge's postseason history and other factors, I would probably tell you, and this is including Ben Rice as well, I would probably say that Bellinger and Stan would be the two guys that I would probably one up in some of the biggest situations, and players that I could see really, really thriving. And the funny thing is, and it's only 2 games, right? And maybe that's the good thing here, is that maybe in game 3, these are the guys that deliver. But Cody Bellinger has been very, very frustrating at the plate. He really has, first inning in game 1, huge spot and strikes out. Here, second and third, one out. And they're just other situations as well, where again, just the at-bat quality just isn't really where you fully want it to be. It almost reminds me a little bit of Bellinger at the start of the regular season, where almost trying to do too much. And then he settled down and was really good. So maybe there's enough time here where Cody, because once he's in that groove, he's, fantastic. But that was bad. And again, Stanton, who has hit into some bad luck. It's not like he's striking out like crazy, Stanton. Like he's not so far off, but he's been disappointing too. Again, only a 2-game sample size, but it's more of because of how I, feel about them and what their abilities are in big moments. Those are the two that I'm kind of looking at as, hey, let's bounce back in game 3. So anyway, Bellinger fucks up there in a big spot, and then Ben Rice just hits into bad luck, which is kind of that's his story all year. Ben Rice lines out to right, absolutely scalds the ball, so Justin Wilson gets out of it. Let's go to bottom of the 5th. Justin Slayton comes on for Justin Wilson, so righty comes in, and it is a 2-out. And here's the good thing about the Yanks is, they haven't scored many runs in the series, but when they have, they've all come with 2 outs. I mean, it's only 5 runs we're talking about, and a couple, 3 of those 5 are via the home run. But it's a 2-out walk for Trent Grisham. He goes to second on a wild pitch, and a good job by Trent to do so. That actually leads to a run. Aaron Judge gets an RBI single on what really should have been an error on Jarren Duran. It's a play that needs to be made by Duran, but hey, it goes off his glove. He dives like it's very catchable, and Grisham scores as a result of that. So 3-2 Yankees right there. And Steven Matz, the lefty, comes on to face Bellinger. And again, there's a situation where Bellinger really could have easily walked, swung at a really bad pitch in the dirt on 3-1, and even the pitch he put in play was a ball. So that inning ends right there at 3-2. And then for Rodón, the 6th and 7th inning are very sketchy. Trevor Story hits a home run. First batter, and that's frustrating. Yankees take the lead, and you want to shut that inning, and Story hits a home run to make it 3-3. Then Alex Bregman draws a 4-pitch walk from Rodón. And at that point, Boone comes out there to talk to Rodón, and Rodon's pitch count was pretty low at this point. Look at that. It wasn't a pitch count thing at all. It was more about ineffectiveness, but Boone does not pull him. And that proves to be beneficial for the 6th inning as Romy Gonzalez pops out, and then Carlos Narvaez hits a 5-4-3 double play. McMahon to Chisholm to Rice, and the inning is over. Bottom of the 6th, Yankees get a little bit of traffic. An infield single by Ben Rice. Stanton lines out to left. Chisholm strikes out. Austin Wells singles. So actually a couple of lefty singles there off of Steven Matz. And then they bring in the righty Zach Kelly. Not a great at-bat by Volpe, who's done well. Volpe's done well, but here, not great. 3-0 count. Takes the 3-0 and 3-1 pitches that were pitches to hit, And the 3-2 is just a kind of a weak hack. And so he strikes out there with 2 on, 2 out. We go to the 7th. And this is where it all comes undone for Rodón after already not having looked that great in the 6th. It is a 4-pitch walk to Nate Eaton. He goes to second on a wild pitch during the Jarren Duran at bat, and Jarren Duran gets hit by a pitch. So, and luckily, that was hit by a pitch, not a wild pitch, because then it could have been first and third. So, first and second, yeah, Rodón had pretty much just lost it at that point, and he's out of the game. And in comes Fernando Cruz in the lane that Luke Weaver faced the day before. Again, it is a slight change. And look, Fernando Cruz, even in this outing, like, wasn't all that sharp, but he comes out of it unscathed. And what really, really helped, majorly what helped, is the fact that Ceddanne Rafaela fucks up the bunt. Like, unequivocally, he honestly tried to bunt at 2 pitches that were way out of the zone. And we know with Fernando Cruz, he's wild. So the Yankees were given a gift by the fact that A, he attempted it, B, actually made contact with it, and Cruz catches the pop out. So that makes it first and second one out. That was massive. And then Nick Sogard flies out to Cody Bellinger. And then comes Yoshida, who was basically the hero from game 1, or one of the big ones, of course, pinch hitting for Rob Refsnyder. And Yoshida hits a liner on the ground towards second, and Jazz Chisholm makes an unbelievable play to get there. So Chisholm saves a run by doing that alone. But then he throws to first because, he thought maybe get Yoshida out, which I don't have a major problem with. I know I've been hard on Chisholm in the past on certain things where maybe he shouldn't throw them, but I can live with it. Ben Rice kind of makes a mistake and Rice needed to be in a mode of keeping it in front of him. He really wasn't going to get the out at first. So Rice couldn't scoop it, which we know is a bit of a problem for him. And the ball slightly goes past Rice. And so I'm thinking, fuck, Nate Eaton is definitely going to score here. And he doesn't. Nate Eaton stays at third. So the Yankees given a gift there like that, whether it be Yoshida getting a hit to the outfield or the fact that it went by Rice, it stays bases loaded. And so then it leads to Trevor Story being up, and on a 2-1 count, he hits one deep to center, 393 feet, but it's caught by Trent Grisham. And that was scary, right? I mean, if somehow Trevor Story hits a grand slam there, it's probably lights out for the Yankees this season. But it stays in the park, and Fernando Cruz was absolutely pumped. And, again, on the one hand, I you love to see the enthusiasm. On the other hand, it's like, he kind of got a little lucky, but hey, it is what it is. Bottom of the 7th, Garrett Whitlock comes on, and there was a 1-out double by Trent Grisham, but then Judge strikes out looking, and then Bellinger flies out. So again, that's that sort of that. And with Judge, not great that he struck out, but I'll give him a pass. Look, like it's been a pretty good 2 games for him. And he's had his postseason struggles before. So again, like nothing there for me to talk about. But Whitlock gets out of it, and we go to the top of the 8th, and Devin Williams. It's maybe not always totally clean, but it's been pretty damn solid lately. Leadoff single for Alex Bregman, but then Nathaniel Lowe pinch hits for Romy Gonzalez and a nice stab by Devin Williams. Not the best throw to Volpe, but Volpe makes a nice play, gets his foot on the bag, throws to first, double play. Huge double play delivered by Devin Williams. Give a lot of credit to Anthony Volpe. And then Carlos Narvaez strikes out. So a scoreless inning for Devin Williams, and he would end up getting the win because the Yankees would come through in the bottom of the 8th with 2 outs. Like I had said before, Jazz walks, which was really nice to see. I really want to see Jazz walk more because of the speed he has, whether that be stolen base opportunities, scoring from first on plays like we're about to talk about. Austin Wells, who's really been pretty good lately. Like, it's kind of the opposite of last season where he was coming in cold and really struggled in the postseason. Here, it's like, in some ways, he's kind of looked as good as he has at the plate maybe all year. Not amazing. He'll still throw in some pretty poor at-bats here. But Austin Wells, who, look, there's been clutch moments for him. There really has. And none bigger than here, where against Garrett Whitlock, who at this point, he pitched the 7th inning, pitched the 8th inning, like pitch counts going up and up. And Wells on full count, which is important because Jazz is on the run, hits one to right, like I said before. And It worked out very well for the Yankees. It's almost like the anti-Tony Clark ground rule double in the ALCS in 2004 at Fenway Park, where like if that doesn't go into the stands, the Yankees are taking the lead there and very well potentially winning that series. And we know what happened after that. But um, not only is it fair, it stays in play, and you have Jazz on a full count. And Nate Eaton, I thought he did a pretty good job with it, honestly. Like, really been a nice throw, but Jazz goes in head first, and he's safe. What a moment. Like, what just an amazing, epic moment that was. Um, for Jazz, and of course, Austin Wells with the big hit. So it's 4-3. Now, Wells doesn't go to second there, which he probably should have. I guess for him, the concern was, maybe if he somehow gets out at second before Jazz scores, which would have been unlikely, but because Volpe then gets a single. So in theory, if Wells is on second, that Volpe single can make it 5-3. It doesn't. Ryan McMahon draws a walk, and then they bring on, because Whitlock's pitch count's crazy at this point, and you have Trent Grisham, Peyton Tolley comes in. Now, I don't want to make a huge deal about this because the Yankees won, however, and I understand, look, it's more of an unfortunate thing. The way this roster is constructed, Trent Grisham being taken out of a game is almost an impossibility, which isn't great because Trent Grisham is not good against lefties. He just isn't. That's what it is. And for me, and it's more if Austin Slater was on the roster, which is why I still don't understand. Like, you did not need Paul Blackburn and Will Warren on this roster. Like, you just, in a 3-game series, you didn't. Like, having Austin Slater would have just been a serviceable outfield body. So you could have very easily had Paul Goldschmidt pinch hit because he came in to play first base anyway. And then the only thing from there is Bellinger goes to center, which is totally fine. Left field's the issue, right? You would have either had to have gone with like Caballero or Dominguez, which is not ideal. And so I understand why it didn't happen. It's more of a roster issue, and Grisham grounds out. Luckily, that didn't come back to bite them. But I wonder if anyone would have posed the question if somehow the Yankees did lose the game. David Bednar comes in the ninth, and it starts out really good. He strikes out Willie Abreu as a pinch hitter. He gets Jarren Duran looking, and then it's Ceddanne Rafaela, who really has been a thorn on the Yankees side to me ever since he came up with the Red Sox. 0-2 pitch. And, I mean, this was not well executed by Bednar. It was in the zone. It was high, but it was a strike. And when he hits this, I think it's gone. I really, really believe this was going out. And luckily, Aaron Judge makes the catch at the track. Bednar gets the save, his first postseason save, and the Yankees win the game 4-3. What a game. What a game. What a series. And now, as I predicted, it's going to go to game 3. And I said it'd be Yankees in 3, and I hope that's still the case. Now, I really wish, and I'm probably on the minority here, I would have rather it been Lucas Giolito starting. I hope I'm wrong. I think it could have been a similar situation to Brian Bayo. I do. Giolito has not been amazing. He doesn't really have overpowering stuff at this point in his career. Not to say he couldn't come through, because he could have, and he was the Red Sox number 3 starter. Like, that's just the way that it was. But kind of early, I don't know how long he's going to pitch in this game. Like, chances are he probably won't. It may be like a Bayo situation, but I don't know. The Yankees have more struggles against lefties. And so Cam Schlittler versus Connolly Early. I mean, pretty crazy. 2 rookies that don't have a whole lot of experience. Schlittler a little more than Early. Schlittler basically came up, around middle of the season, maybe a little later than that, when Clark Schmidt went down. Schlittler had, just about 15 starts or so. And, it's going to be crazy. Like this is, I mean, if he somehow does well, boy, that'd be just an amazing, just for his experience. I mean, good or bad, but he could be a hero potentially, but I think expectations need to be really in check here. This is a tough spot for the kid. The hook will probably be quick, despite the fact the Yankees have really used the bullpen a lot lately, but it's all hands on deck. The last thing that I'll say, it'll be interesting as far as the lineup. My hunch, even though Early is a lefty, I think it's going to be more like the lineup that we saw tonight, which has its risks. And maybe there is some moving around between the actual lineup itself, but I tend to think that it will be basically the regular start. I think Jazz is going to play second for sure. And the question really is really at first. I think Wells is catching without a doubt. I'm not even questioning that. It's really more of a Rice or Goldschmidt thing. And you can make the case for either way. I think it's Rice. And I actually want it to be Rice. And I just think that for the full game, that's the way to go. And Goldschmidt, you can always utilize him off the bench in pinch hitting purposes, defensive purposes. I think that they actually will go with Rice. He's put up more competitive at bats versus lefties. The other question is third base. And I think it'll be McMahon. But I suppose I wouldn't be stunned if it wasn't. You could either go with Caballero or Rosario. But I think that Caballero off the bench, he's a weapon too. Again, my hunch is that even though Caballero's lefty, and again, this is part of the reason why I don't love the fact that it is early starting, I think that they will go with the righty, the verse righty, more lefty-oriented bats crew against early. Let's see how it goes. Like, I'm not overly concerned about it. I wouldn't be so sure to say, oh, great, Lucas Giolito's out, this is a good thing. I don't know about that. I really don't. But I'm hoping that Cam Schlittler can at least give you, at worst, a Carlos Rodón type performance. I mean, I don't know how I feel about, it wasn't great, but for Schlittler, if he can give you at least 5 innings, keep the team in the game. Look, to expect him to pitch this gem, that's just too much to ask. It just is. But it's for him, it's about, not letting it unravel, right? Like we've seen with Will Warren. Look, like we've seen with Schlittler a couple times before. I think against the Blue Jays where, he didn't make it out of the second inning. Like there is that possibility that does exist. That's the risk here. But both teams are kind of experiencing it similarly. So you would expect this to end in epic fashion. The Yankees really, really need to find a way to, end this hex against the Red Sox because it's true and it's there and it's at Yankee Stadium, right? Like, because let's be honest, like if Game 3 was at Fenway Park, I think that they would win. How about winning with this game being game in the Bronx? You earn that home field advantage and take advantage of it. So, like this would be if the Yankees can win, it would be one of the bigger Yankee wins, honestly, like in this recent era of time. It really would be, right? This isn't, not to take anything away from some of the American League Central wins, and I'm really proud of 2017. That was especially given everything, like that was something to be proud of. Down 0-2 to come back, that was good stuff. It really was. But some of the other one, the Twins series wins, and even last year with the Royals and stuff like that, like this would be not this is an amazing Red Sox team, but it'd be pretty big. It really, really would be. So hoping they can get it done. A crazy Game 2 after a wild Game 1. And so now it's a winner take all Game 3. You wouldn't really have it any other way. And you kind of knew that it was destined for this. The chances of this ending in 2 was pretty unlikely. So here we go. Yankees win Game 2, 4-3. Austin Wells knocks in Jazz Chisholm Jr. in the bottom of the 8th to give the Yankees the lead, and they get that 4-3 win. And now we will see what happens in the deciding Game 3. Lefty Connolly early and righty Cam Schlittler will be the starters, and the winner will advance to take on the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League Division Series, and the loser is headed home.